Hello, I'm going to make another short video about the rune that I've just picked for my day today. And I thought I'd just share some thoughts with you about the rune Sowilo. And this was how I picked the rune out of my rune bag. And it was very encouraging for me. Let me explain a little more. So the traditional meaning for the rune called Sowilo is sun. It's the sun rune, and it was associated and is associated with the goddesses Sol and Sunna from the Germanic and Norse traditions. So what is the sun? Well, the sun is a massively powerful body that emits light and that gives life to us here on earth. And to me, that is a metaphor for the soul, because for us humans, the soul is a massively powerful, energetic body that gives out light, emits light, and brings life to our physical bodies. So when I pick Sowilo from the rune bag, and I pick these runes blind without knowing what they're going to be, when I pick Sowilo, I think of it as the soul rune and the rune of soul healing and a rune of spiritual healing. And it's very nice for me to pick this rune today for myself, because it comes hot on the heels of yesterday's rune. And the rune I picked yesterday was the rune called Laguz, which is very much related to the emotional level of our being, and therefore also a rune I associate with healing, primarily at the emotional level. And I shared with you that I've been feeling that as a reality in my life, leading up to yesterday and including yesterday. And hot on the heels of the rune for emotional healing, this Laguz rune, comes the rune for soul healing or spiritual healing, which is Sowilo. So for me, there's a relationship between the two. Laguz, in the way I have been experiencing Laguz recently, yesterday's rune, Laguz flagged up strong emotional energies for me that I needed to look at, because when we experience a very powerful or difficult or heavy emotional energy, then it's an alarm for us, or a flag of us to dig deep, a flag for us marking a spot where we need to dig deeper and research and find out what's causing that triggered response, that emotional response. If it's difficult for us, if it's something that we need to understand and heal. And so what that process of contemplation led to was the discovery of a part of myself who held that particular emotion around that particular trigger, which is a relationship with a family member. And once I'd made that connection about which part of me held that particular emotional reaction, then I could move forward. I could progress into the spiritual level of healing, which is, for me, embodied by this rune, Sowilo. Because there are experiences in life that overshadow and cloud the soul's light. This happens to all human beings. The soul records every one of your experiences, whether good or bad or beautiful or ugly or light or heavy. And sometimes a very heavy or difficult or traumatizing experience will cast its shadow across the whole of your soul light and will drive your responses to situations, will colour your perceptions of reality, how you perceive reality, and will inevitably influence your weird and your destiny and how your life turns out. And that's what this particular emotional pattern, this old emotional pattern that was formed in a response to one of my relatives many years ago, has played out in my life. It keeps triggering the same belief patterns and belief systems, the same negative expectations, and therefore the same fears for my future. But what this rune Sowilo confirms for me is that I made an important link between the emotion that I was experiencing and the source of the emotion within me, forgetting about the other party who was part of the dynamic. But the source of that emotion within me is the wounded part of myself that I needed to identify. And when you can identify that aspect of your soul experience, when you can visualize or imagine that part of your being, that part's age, that part's memory, that part's emotional state, when you can see that part of yourself, then you can hold a conversation with that part of yourself. You raise that part of yourself out of the muddle and general background noise of your mind, and you bring that part of yourself forward so that you can have a focused and an honest and an open conversation with that part of yourself. It's a clarifying process, and it brings me much hope and encouragement that I can now understand why that part of me has those strong emotions and those fearful reactions and those negative thought patterns. And I can forgive myself because that part of me is very, very little and vulnerable. And it means I can take attention off the other party, the other person involved, and I can stop blaming them because I have something productive to work with within me. And with responsibility for myself, aided by this kind of identifying process, with that responsibility comes my self-empowerment. So this is just one way that I think about the rune Sowilo, and there are many other ways that you can think about it, but this is one that I have developed for myself. So it may not please traditionalists, but I honour many traditional meanings too. So perhaps you can think about that aspect of soul healing yourself today, and would it help you to identify quite clearly the part of yourself who is hurting and having emotional reactions that seem uncontrollable sometimes or beyond your power to fathom? I know it's a process that works for me, and I'm very happy to get this affirmation from the runes today that I'm moving in the right direction with my own personal healing. And the runes are amazing for that. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.